Hello, hello, and welcome to Cherie's World Podcast. Today you are stuck with me. I am Cherie Johnson. My co-host Courtney is not here today because he is still going to college working on his higher learning. But today I have a really exciting surprise for you. Miss Teri Williams, the owner, the president, the COO of OneUnited Bank, is going to be in a house with your girl. I am so excited. If you have been a follower, you know that I am new to OneUnited Bank. I am a OneUnited Bank customer, and I have been trying to start a movement to teach my community how important it is for us to bank black. But somebody who is even better and well knowledge, and she's gonna be here today to teach us some things. So without further ado, please welcome Miss Teri Williams.
The only podcast coming through your beat stereo is Cherie's World, so let's go around like a merry-go. Plug your phone in, make sure it got a full battery. Download it Wednesday, listen to it Saturday. She cover all topics, whatever you after. She got ball players, authors, doctors, actors, rappers, singers, entrepreneurs, divas, leaders. Androids or Apple, turn up your speakers. Trying to shoot my shot like the vaccine, whether it's Cherie or Maxine, whether the podcast or acting, she that queen. PYT, you know what that mean. Saw you on TV and touch the screen, touch on you. I plead Lucy's got a crush on you. It'll mean the world to get a blush from you. Teaspoon of me, leave you sleep like Robitussin do.
Hi, Miss Williams. Well, the last time I already had recorded your intro, so we could jump into it. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep you too long.
No, it's great to be here. Hi, Cherie. I'm really happy to be here. Very excited. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Me too. Representation is such a big deal. I told a little story when I gave your intro about how I was introduced to OneUnited Bank. I had a friend in high school whose mother was a bank customer, and I lived in a different community. She lived in the Crenshaw district. And one day we were in the car and we were on our way to the store, and she stopped at the bank like every mother does. And she left us in the car, and she turned around and looked at me and she said, "Hey, baby girl, do you know about OneUnited Bank?" And I said, "No, ma'am." And she said, "It's a black owned bank." And she said, "So next time you open up another account, I want you to do it in a black owned bank, okay? Because it's owned by us for us, and it serves the community."
Wow.
And I, at the time, didn't live in a black community. I lived in Malibu.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we didn't have a OneUnited Bank. But then I remember going back several years later with my co-star from Family Matters, Sean Harrison. And he used to have a bank account in there. And it was the first time I had ever walked in the bank and saw black people working in it. And
Wow.
yes. And so I want to say thank you. It's a huge deal. And as a Black woman looking up to you, I can't even explain what seeing you and your accomplishments does for my soul.
Oh. Well, thank you. I mean, you talk about representation, seeing you on TV. That's representation. And just the positive role model that you've always been for the community. And I think that we're all trying to be role models. I think we all have been influenced by them. I know I have, and hopefully we can pay forward.
So beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so I'm honored because I don't go into this thinking that anybody ever watched me on TV. So that means a lot. What did you want to do when you grew up?
I definitely didn't want to be a banker. That wasn't on my mind. So I have thought about this story in my older age, and realized that the person that influenced me the most was my great-grandmother. We called her Ma Honey. People in town called her Miss Honey. And she owned a barbecue pit, a juke joint. So for those not from the South, you might think of that as like a club or a bar, but she owned the juke joint. She owned real estate and a penny candy store. And I used to follow her around. I used to work in the penny candy store. I learned how to play pool in the juke joint. But I really didn't think of her as being a businesswoman. She was just my great grandmother. She was just my honey to me. But as I've gotten older, I realized how incredible she was, first of all, to own all those businesses in the segregated South, back in the 1930s, 40s, 50s.
Wow.
Just what it took for her to build, the real estate and everything else. But I also realized how much she influenced me, and I won't say that I wanted to be a business person, but I didn't view business as a negative or as something that I couldn't do, because, my family owned businesses from, the time that before I was born.
Amazing. So you had wonderful examples from day one.
Yeah, I did.
What was your journey in becoming the CEO of OneUnited?
So, first of all, I'm the president and chief operating officer, but also the owner of the bank. And my journey was not a straight line. I mentioned my great grandmother. This was in a place called Indiantown, Florida. It's a small town with a railroad track. White people lived on one side, Black people lived on the other. And when I graduated from high school, someone had recommended that I apply to Brown University. I had never heard of Ivy League. I just applied because it was recommended, and I got in. But even then, I only went because they gave me a full scholarship. So it wasn't like I had gotten into other schools, but they gave me a full ride, and I was like, okay, I guess that's where I'm going. And I got there, and it was like a cultural shock. I remember calling my mom saying, I don't like the white people or the Black people. Because, coming from Indiantown, it was just a cultural shock. Academically, it actually wasn't super hard. It was more the social and cultural piece that really took me a while to get adjusted to. So I eventually did. I graduated, with distinctions in economics. Even then I was thinking about being a professor. When I got to Brown, I wanted to be a math teacher because that's the only role model I had. I didn't think about a banker or a professor. My sights were really a reflection of how I grew up. But I got introduced to economics, loved it, got introduced to business school, applied and got into business school, decided to go to Harvard Business School. Again, cultural shock. But, at that point I had been at Brown, I had worked at Bank of America. And so it was less, I lived in New York, it was less of a cultural shock. But it was definitely not a straight line. And eventually ended up owning a bank. Actually bought 4 banks and rolled them into one. And we've become the largest Black-owned bank in the country with a digital presence. We have customers in all 50 states. But I go back to Indiantown every now and then just to really remember my roots, but also to reflect on my great grandmother, my grandmother, my great uncle, and my family, and how my journey really began. It really is, it's humbling, but it also says to me that it's not where you begin, it's where you end up, and it's not, and even then it's not, because it's a journey. It never ends. The whole idea is not to get to a particular place, but to really enjoy the journey and to see how many people you can help along the way.
She said, I bought 4 banks and rolled them into one with ease. Like, I love that. What drives your passion and commitment to serving the Black community?
Again, I think it goes back to my great grandmother and my family. It was never an option for me. It's part of my DNA. Serving is what I do. I'm very passionate about, there's still the teacher in me. I'm very passionate about financial literacy and educating our community. I really want financial literacy to be a core value in our community. I want us to, talk to our kids from the time they're born about money and, how to save, how to budget, how to manage their money, and recognize that even when you make mistakes, you can get back up, and not, let it, get to your psyche. It's, I've seen, not nice people that have a lot of money and very nice people that have very little money. I've seen generous people with little money and not generous people with a lot of money, so, it really is more about, sort of your character and whether or not you care about people. And, for me, that's what I'm passionate about is really, caring about our community, helping us connect the dots. Like a lot of things I saw growing up that I just didn't understand. I didn't understand why we lived on one side of the railroad track and not the other.
Mm.
It was a marina, actually on our side of the railroad track, there was a marina that, was really off limits to Black people. And I never understood that. It had really fancy houses, had nice marina and boats. And, it was really made us feel less than and feel unwanted. And then you continue down the road to, to the Black side of town, to Booker Park. And, there were a lot of, even, my family, we lived in a shotgun house at one point, which is, sort of you can shoot a gun and it go from the front to the back, dirt roads. I mean, we didn't, my dad, because, our family lived in Indiantown for like 5 generations. My dad had to move to West Palm Beach, Florida to go to high school because there wasn't even a high school in the entire county of Martin County. So,
Wow.
I guess I'm just passionate about ensuring that, the little Teris and Cheries of the world, grow up with a better understanding of money.
I love that you say that, because that brings me to one of the questions that I had to you about how financial literacy is such a big deal to you. And the little Cheries, I have my very own little Cherie, and she's actually
good.
reading your book.
Oh, good. Oh, fabulous. Oh, that warms my heart.
Can you
yes.
tell us a little bit about what drove you to write your book?
Yeah. And first of all, let me just say, everybody can get a copy of it. Like, it's on Amazon. Someone told me for like $300, but you can download a copy from our website at oneunited.com/book. So you can download a free copy. But I wrote the book because, when I looked at, first of all, I have 2 kids. And we also adopt schools in the communities that we serve, Boston, where we have branches, Boston, Miami, and LA. And when I was trying to find some books to, help with the education of my kids, as well as the kids in these schools that are Black and brown, I couldn't find any books that really, now this was, first of all, it's still, it's better today, but still isn't where it needs to be. But I couldn't find any books that really related to our community. There were books, first of all, didn't even have Black kids. And then it had sort of like white picket fences and lemonade stands. And, that was sort of what I would call a very suburban view of kids and how they are growing up. Whereas, in our communities, they're check cashers on, almost every street. And, we have issues with like check systems records or credit scores, or, there's so many issues that we don't know about, that we should know about. And I just felt like it was important for our kids to know about these things before they made mistakes.
Absolutely.
Because that's how we found out. It was like trial and error, like, oops, now I have a low credit score, or oops, now I have a check systems record, or oops, I didn't know I was supposed to save, and that, all these things that are really important to our community, that I just wanted to make sure our kids and adults have those lessons. And so I say to everyone, if you read the book, you will learn everything you need to know about money as a foundation. You'll learn about, marketing and the 4 Ps, you'll learn about money laundering, you'll learn about, check systems records. It has all the secrets, that really shouldn't be secrets. So, and it's, I think it's a fun book to read. I know that kids, they don't want you to preach, they want to read something that's enjoyable. So I do feel I'm happy and I feel confident that the book is a fun book to read because that's the feedback that kids give me.
It is. It is definitely a fun book to read, but I can tell you that
Yeah.
I learned from your book because she was
Oh, wow.
coming to me, asking me questions, and I was like, wait a minute, baby, let's read it together. Because I wasn't taught financial literacy in my
Yeah,
home. Unfortunately, I
yeah,
didn't come from a family who had any money to
yeah.
know
Right,
what to do with any money,
right.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to do different with her, and I am a homeschool mom. So
Oh, wow.
yes,
Oh, good.
your
Yeah,
book was incorporated in our curriculum. And I
yes.
think it's
Oh,
a
good.
wonderful curriculum for
Oh, good.
anybody out there who is a homeschool parent.
Oh,
And I
yes,
love
yes.
what you guys do with the essays every year as well.
Yes,
Tell us a little
yes, we
bit more
do.
about that.
Yep, yep. So every year, this is our 13th year, we have a essay contest, essay and art. It used to be just essays, but we added art because we have young artists that, express themselves that way. So kids 8 to 12 are eligible. We ask them to read a book, a financial literacy book, doesn't have to be mine, could be any book, and to communicate in their essay or art how the book will help them help their family. And I say that, I want to, say that again, how the book will help them help their family. Because a lot of times kids will write a book report.
Right.
I try to say to them, no, we don't want you to summarize the book. We want you to read a book and then tell us how the lessons that you learned from the book will help you help your family, which is a little bit more than just summarizing what's in the book. And we get back just incredible essays, incredible art. Makes it really hard for us to make a decision. In fact, we haven't made our decision yet for this year. We will be announcing at the end of this month. But it really is, it's just been a wonderful, oh, I should say, I left out the most important part. We choose 10 winners and each kid gets $1,000 savings account.
Amazing.
So it really, I feel like all the kids are winners, whether you get the $1,000 or not. But clearly, between 8 to 12 years old, getting $1,000, is a big deal. And we're always happy to give out, those prizes in August.
Okay, so One United Bank is a trailblazer when it comes to the banking industry. What do you believe sets your bank apart from other financial institutions?
Yeah, I think part of what sets us apart is being willing to use the tools of banking to specifically focus on sort of meeting the needs of our community. And what I mean by that is we do have different needs. I sometimes this is emotional for me because and sometimes it also makes me angry because I always say to people, like, I'm not just a, sort of a white person with a black face. I'm a Black person. I grew up in a Black community. And, there are certain parts of our culture, whether it's that, my family was enslaved, or whether it was that we lived in a segregated South, or in, in public housing in the projects, or I went to public schools. But I mean, a whole lot of experiences that are part of our community that has led to the racial wealth gap. It's not something we did, it was something that was done to us. But because of those experiences, we do have, different needs. We do have like I said, we have a need to know about check cashing stores because they're prevalent in our community. We have a need to know about check systems records because it's not taught in school. And, a lot of us have, end up screwing up our bank account and not realizing that stops us from opening up a bank account at any bank in the country. So there are a lot of things that we are specific, experiences that create needs that are not being addressed by the majority of banks that are out there. And what we do is we try to, first of all, we hear those needs. We've experienced those needs, but we hear them, we've experienced them, we take that feedback, And we solve for them by coming up with products and services to better meet those needs. So I'm going to use an example. We just launched a program called Cash Please, which is a short-term small dollar loan program to be a substitute for payday lending. Because what we could see is that there are a lot of people in our community, that run out of money and they need a loan. They go over to the check casher, they get this payday loan, and it ends up, costing them 400% interest rates, about a bunch of fees. And then they're in this perpetual cycle of trying to pay back this loan and having to take out another loan to pay back the loan, and on and on and on. And we were like, we think we can do a better job, at that, to fill that need. So our Cash Please program allows our customers to go, online, take out a loan, have the money deposited into their bank account in 4 hours. And we only charge 20% in comparison to the 400% that the payday lenders charge. The money is paid back within 90 days, so it's similar in that it's short term. It's not a, long-term loan. And then once you pay it back, you can take out another loan, but you have to pay it back before you do. You can't roll it over and get stuck, with this perpetual loan problem. We actually require you to pay it back, have a little bit of a grace period, and then go back to taking out another loan if you need to. And so, that's an example. That service, it took a lot for us to implement it, but hopefully, other banks will start offering a similar program, because there's no reason that our community should be using check cashers. Banks have the tools to do the same things that check cashers do. There's just no reason for us to have to rely on, non-bank entities to meet our financial needs. And so, you say, what makes us different? What makes us different is that we are laser focused on filling the needs of the Black community, of the Latino community, of low to moderate income families who, don't have like a whole lot of money to be throwing, at their bank account. And so that's what makes us different.
That's major, because I grew up with a cousin who never had a bank account. She cashed all her checks at a check cashing place because that was what was convenient for her. And so it's definitely something that I've grown up seeing, and I never really thought of the whole payday loan thing. But
well, even myself, when I started working, I did the same thing. I went to a check casher and cashed my check, and at the end of the week, I would have run out of money, and I'd be like, okay, I gotta do better, next time. And I would do it again. Every time, the end of the week, I would run, I'd be out of money, and I'd be like, I should have saved some of it. And what I didn't realize, and what all wealthy people do realize, is that the money cannot go in your pocket. If it goes in your pocket, you're more likely to spend it. If you set up an automatic savings plan so that you move some of it, from your paycheck into a savings account, and the rest of it into your checking account or even into your pocket, you will save automatically, and you won't miss it. And you'll look up and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I saved all this money. So, but that's the only way to do it. People don't tell you that. That's the only way to save. Like, nobody has the willpower. I hate to put it this way. Nobody has a willpower to have all this cash in their pocket and not spend it. That's very rare. So what you need to do is to put it away in an automatic savings plan so that you are saving and you're not even thinking about it.
Before you even touch it.
That
is so smart. I've been asking people online to just move $20 into a Black bank, whether it be OneUnited Bank or another Black bank. Can you help explain what moving our money out of white financial institutions can do to better serve our communities if we move just a little bit of money into our own communities?
Yeah. So first of all, I do want everyone to know that we offer actually better services than probably the bank you're using. I want to start there because you mentioned, how is OneUnited different? And We have incredible technology that most community banks, most credit unions, even some of the large national banks don't have. You can take a picture of your check. We have more surcharge-free ATMs across the country than any other bank in America. You can go to Chase or Citibank branches and get money out and be a OneUnited customer surcharge-free. So one, you should, starting with, you can actually get better services with a Black bank. So that's number one. And number two is, we are the only ethnicity, the only community that doesn't show the power of our dollars by banking with ourselves. When you look at the largest Asian American owned bank, it's $30 billion. When you look at the largest Latino bank, it's $20 billion. When you look at the largest Black owned bank, it's less than $1 billion. And the reason is that we don't do business with ourselves. Other groups do business with within their community. And it really says something. One, it doesn't provide the Black banks with the deposit dollars to lend. So it provides us with less dollars when we're providing those dollars. If your money is sitting in whatever bank it is, you got to understand that they are using your dollars, your deposit dollars, to lend to communities that don't look like us. Yeah.
That's
so
because I've never thought about that.
You are taking a stand. You are taking a vote with your dollars. So I know it, clearly, that's why I wanted to start with, you can get better service, better technology with a Black-owned bank. But in addition to that, by holding your money at another institution, a not Black-owned bank, you're basically providing resources to communities that don't look like us. When you put your money with a Black-owned bank, we are much more likely to lend, like on a scale of, 1,000% more likely to lend to communities that are Black and brown, as opposed to other communities. So it really does make a difference. And it's not just putting deposit dollars in, it's actually using the bank and really, supporting the bank and promoting the bank as your friend's mom did, because, there are times when people would say to me, I don't believe that there's a Black-owned bank. I mean, I couldn't believe this. They were like, it's not Black-owned bank. And I come out like, no, I'm the owner. I'm Black, They're like, well, somebody else is, behind it. And I was like, no, there's no white man behind the curtain, And so there is a, there's a belief that we can't do this or that we're not good at money. It's all like untrue. Like we're believing what they have told us about ourselves. Like we are actually very good with money as a community. Like the reason that the wealth gap exists is not that we overspend or we spend on the wrong things. Like that's totally untrue. Like totally untrue. Like it's been proven, scientifically,
right,
that the wealth gap exists not because we overspend, but because we were precluded from owning real estate. They were giving money away to white, families to move to the suburbs. That we were not. It was in the law that we could not participate in those programs. And that, and there are a whole lot of other things that were, beyond, enslavement, Jim Crow, I can go on and on, not being paid the same amount for the same job. I mean, discrimination is the reason that the wealth gap exists. It's not because Black people aren't good with money or Black people spend too much. So yes, I think everyone should bank Black, buy Black, and support our community.
I love it. You don't understand. As you speak, I'm gloating with pride for you, and I'm gloating for the next generation because they say every generation does better. And you really are helping my child learn things that I never knew. Talking about the advocacy, because I don't want to just say Black Lives Matters, because you are really behind social justice, period. How do you navigate the balance between advocacy and like corporate responsibility?
So for us, advocacy is critical to not just our success, but our community's success. That basically financial well-being is tied to social justice. I mean, the reason that, as I said, the wealth gap exists is because there were laws in place, there were policies in place that were discriminatory. And so if you're not fighting for our rights, if you're not fighting for, basically the end to mass incarceration, or if you're not fighting for voting rights, if you're not fighting, for a more just system, you're not really trying to focus on improving our financial well-being or closing the racial wealth gap. Because, the policies that are in place and the systemic policies that are in place that hold us back continue to exist. So for us, it's not even an option. We have to fight for social justice. It's not, there's I guess sometimes a thought that corporations or banks, shouldn't get involved in, social movements. And we say, the opposite of that. In fact, we are very much in support of Black Lives Matter, very much in support of voting rights, and really encouraging our community to vote, because it is through public policy that a real change can happen in terms of closing the racial wealth gap.
As you talk about the racial wealth gap, they're talking about there might be another pandemic. And when you think about the pandemics and the bank and what's to come, can you tell us some ways that OneUnited Bank supported its customers during COVID-19?
Yeah, wow. One of the things that we had the fortune of happening to us is because we are in Boston, Miami, and LA, and all across the country, but we saw the pandemic, coming before a lot of people did. There was an incident in Boston where people started to realize, wait a minute, there is this thing called COVID-19, and the city, I remember specifically when it happened, this, March 13th, 2020, the city really shut down, and I flew from Boston to Miami. When I got to Miami, everybody was still partying in Miami, whereas Boston knew that this pandemic was happening, and the city shut down. We were able to communicate to our customers and to our supporters, like immediately what they needed to do. And really, and you can look back at our blog articles, but we were like, okay, these are the things that you need to do in order to survive, this pandemic. And, and we continue that communication throughout. And what we realize is that, first of all, knowledge is power, but what's even more powerful is when you get that knowledge, sort of knowing sooner rather than later is very, very helpful. What I'll also say for myself, and this is sort of a personal story I haven't even talked about before, but my brother passed away from HIV. And if he had not gotten AIDS when he did, he would be living today. And so I understood that, you don't want to be the first to get a virus. You need to protect yourself for as long as possible, because there will be solutions, but they will come later. And so I was saying, to everyone, is to protect yourself during this time, because there will be a solution, but you don't want to get the virus early. And so, so we got that communication out. We offered the paycheck program, payroll protection program, to our customers. And we offered it not to the big, businesses that a lot of the banks offered it to. We offered ours. Our first PPP loan was to a Uber driver.
Amazing.
Yes. And she, because Uber, nobody was getting in Uber. I mean, so she went from having this income to having no income. And but she was very appreciative, but to us it was sort of like, this is what we do, like our goal is really to ensure that our community gets access to these programs, as opposed to giving them to the biggest, businesses that are out there, in some cases that didn't even need the money. So we also promoted, I know this sort of became controversial, but we promoted people getting vaccinated or learning about the vaccination, and explaining that it was a Black woman that, was really the scientist behind this vaccination. Because what we could see is that, there's a lot of misinformation out there, just as there is about us and money.
Absolutely.
It's the misinformation that, gets in the way of us, building wealth, closing the racial wealth gap, voting, taking a stand, because we hear a lot of misinformation, and we're not, always making good decisions because we are making it based on bad information. So we tried to do what we could to share, the truth. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. We supported Black Lives Matter when people were saying it was a terrorist organization. We're like, that's just ridiculous. Even today, people now are like, oh, Black Lives Matter, they have issues. Like, Black Lives Matter has been incredibly successful. It has raised awareness in ways that has never happened before. And so, if you want to pick out, one little thing here that's wrong, one little thing here that's wrong, all organizations have issues, but in terms of the impact that Black Lives Matter has had a huge impact in terms of moving us forward as it relates to social justice.
Talk about impact. Let's talk about the impact right now that OneUnited Bank is having on social media and the digital marketing. What are the goals, and how are you promoting to your customers?
So we're very active on social media. So I, say to everybody, follow us on, Twitter. Twitter is sort of, I got a question about Twitter. I love Black Twitter, but I had a question about Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called. But Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. But part of the reason is because we as a community are very active on social media, and we're trying to get the word out, again, about financial literacy, about social justice, and really help our community understand what's going on. We also get great feedback. So, by the way, everybody that makes a comment, I read all the comments, and we get great feedback, good and bad. Some people say, hey, you're doing a great job. Other people are like, you suck, and you screwed up. We take all the feedback, we look into it, and address, our customers' needs, as well as, listen to the recommendations from our community to get better. And I will say we have gotten better. We continue to get better. We're about to launch a new program. I'll say this on your show. We're about to launch a new program that uses artificial intelligence for good.
Wow.
So it's an AI-driven program that will help our community build wealth, that will be able to provide, insights. And I can't say any more at the moment, but it's coming soon. But part of the reason that we're launching this program is because, of the feedback that we received in terms of what our community needs. So social media to us is a feedback mechanism that really helps us get better.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for letting me go off book. Look, I sent this lady all these questions that I didn't ask her, because this conversation has been so much better and so much informational. I love the fact that you really are involved. So if you have questions, ask them on her platform. She or somebody who's trusted is really going to get back to you. I never thought when I posted about the bank in November that somebody would actually reach out to me and be like,
No, we do. We read everything. I read everything. It's helpful. I mean, our community, we're really good at giving. good feedback. And so, yes, if you have questions, if you have feedback, let us know.
Oh, thank you so much. It has been an
Thank you.
honor to have you. I am
Thank
so
you.
appreciative. And let me tell you, I fell in love with y'all. Y'all called me and told me Merry Christmas.
Oh, we do have a team. We do have a team that calls our customers. They absolutely do. Our customer success team. They call our customers, and our customers are always like, "What? You call me?" But we call our customers. We do.
Let me tell you, that was a big deal to me. The only time a bank ever called me is when I owed them some money. So for somebody just to call me and say Merry Christmas was a really big deal.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
It's late. I didn't get to talk to them, but Merry Christmas. I'm looking forward to
Yes, yeah. Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa. And
Yeah.
I am going to continue being a OneUnited Bank customer. I hope in a couple years I'm still doing the show and I can have you back so you can tell me all the new stuff that you guys have going
Oh,
on.
absolutely. Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me. It's really fun.
Thank you so much. Amazing.
Thank you. Okay.
What up, Cherie? Heard across the world. Welcome to Cherie's world. Heard across the world. Welcome to Cherie's world. Representing for every girl. Welcome to Cherie's world. Representing for every girl. Welcome to Cherie's world.